Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. We're going to talk about the brand new Legends of Vox Machina Amazon Prime show, which I am 100% on board with at this point. I had a lot of beef with it to begin with, but the content won me over, right? Content shuts people up. It's kind of shut me up on the negatives. I have a lot more positive to say right now about Legends of Vox Machina than I do negative. I really enjoyed it, and I am I'm just filled with joy knowing that right now, when you go on when you go on Amazon Prime, there's a gigantic banner that says Dungeons and Dragons 5th Edition and nothing else, right? It is Dungeons and Dragons 5th Edition. Now, let's be super clear. Vox Machina started as a Pathfinder 1E game, right? When it was in the dark, right? But then people were like, wait a second, this game is going well, and we got a lot of cool people aligned to this. We need to put that. We're gonna put this on the web. We're gonna show people, and people are like, "Oh, well, it's Pathfinder right now, and that's going to do nothing for us, right? Because it's a copy of Dungeons and Dragons, and it's not Dungeons and Dragons, and no one knows about it. They think that it is literally an SUV, and no one cares about it. So now that we're going to take this and do something significant and real with it, we certainly cannot use any game in the world except Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, which will serve as a catapult." And boy, did it, right? They're like, we got one of the best dungeon masters in the world. We have literally Hollywood. We have people who have done Hollywood projects. I don't know if I could say they're Hollywood actors. They're generally, voice actors. And does that count? I don't know. It's tough to say. And then, so we got real. Oh, I'm wrong. Felicia Day was connected even as a producer then. They're like, okay, this is real Hollywood juice, right? We need the best game in the world. And the only game that would serve was Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. So Pathfinder 1E, they were like, get this stepping. You ain't helping here. Bye. Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. Best Dungeon Master in the world. Best game in the world. Actually, I'll say it right now. The most effective players that have ever existed in any streamed game, right? I got beef with Critical Role. I specifically on the people part, right? But the reality is they've accomplished something nobody else has accomplished, right? So let's talk today about Grog, Strongjaw, and this really bold statement that Vox Machina has made, right? Which is Grog Strongjaw is saying rage can be used for good. So Grog Strongjaw, and spoilers for the Legends of Vox Machina content. So basically, the Grog Strongjaw is a Goliath, a gigantic dude, right? A gigantic, stone race, right? Barbarian, right? And his fighting power comes specifically from rage, right? And this is shown very directly in the dragon fight, right? He is given major slashes when he is fighting the dragon. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm thinking there's one point where Grog Strongjaw actually directly fights someone with a sword. That's right. Yeah, this is earlier than the dragon. Fights with a sword directly, right? And he fights a sword, and he's like, "Oh, that's cute that you have a sword. Look at this double-ended, huge, gigantic axe I have," right? And this sword opponent cuts him multiple times, right? But it's clear that Grog Strongjaw has no understanding that he's been cut, and it doesn't debilitate him in any way because his fighting is coming from pure rage, right? So this is an interesting thing, right? So one of the things is it's really interesting too because Critical Role was like, these guys are mercenaries, right? But there's always this question now: is that genuine or is that performative, right? And them being a heartless mercenary band, not allied with good, is performative, right? Because Matthew Mercer and his crew are Hollywood aligned. It's very embarrassing for them to say, we're aligned with good. We actually believe in alignment, and we're going to do good things, right? So they're like, "What? Yeah, we're evil. Of course we do evil all the time, right? We understand that that's Hollywood's main value set. So we're mercenaries. We only do good things for money, right?" But then they make it clear, they're like, what if we do good, right? And one of the characters literally says it, and then they go and they help the kingdom and they do good, right? Like, and so by Grog Strongjaw, Travis Willingham's character being there, this giant, this Goliath, who's half giant essentially. Yeah, that's correct. I think Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition has addressed that, like that Goliaths are essentially have some giant blood in them, right? And so basically, by Grog Strongjaw fighting so powerfully, they're saying, I think Critical Role's message here is rage can be used directly for good, right? It's a bold statement, right? I'm not, you know, like, and I have to be very careful about this because I'm an evangelical Christian, and one of the things is we are warned very carefully about using anger for anything, right? The only time anger is ever allowed for an evangelical Christian or anybody who's aligned with good, right, according to the Bible, is when the anger is righteous, right? If it's a righteous anger, right? So I really thought it was really interesting and fascinating that Grog Strongjaw explores this question of, can rage, you know, not just tactical, you know, fighting, but pure rage be aligned for good, right? Because generally rage is an outrageously dangerous thing, and we have to be incredibly careful about it, right? And so I was a little concerned when they were like, oh, you know, hey, here's this Goliath barbarian, he rages a lot, and guess what, he's a mercenary, so he can just rage against whoever he wants. This isn't aligned with good. But I was really happy when Critical Role was like, we're not actually mercenaries, like we're a traditional good aligned adventuring crew. And because of that, it's safe to bring this Goliath barbarian in, because his rage is going to be attached to achieving good. Because rage is outrageously dangerous, and we have to be incredibly careful in life when we try to use anger for anything, right? And so I think it would have been really very irresponsible of Critical Role to be like, yeah, like, you know, mercenary, and we're going to use rage for, you know, to get some gold, right? You know, and basically, that's one of the things I think is the more you get into this Legend of Vox Machina, you're like, yeah, this looks like problematic themes, but the reality is this is a celebration of pure Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, Gary Gygax's greatest legacy. It's all there, right? And you know, this doesn't line up with like Goblin Slayer, right? Like some nonsense Japanese anime that's trying to be Dungeons & Dragons. This is full on, right? American fantasy equaling Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. It's pure now, pure Dungeons & Dragons, pure 5e. It's fantastic, and I'm really, really down for it. And I thought it was really interesting to explore this question of, can rage be aligned with good, right? And I do, because I think there might have been some rage that was aligned with when we created this country, right? And that's challenging to and so for them to take on that question so directly, America, I mean, because Dungeons & Dragons is an American game, and to you know, put in a question that philosophically deep, I really, really like. I'm really digging Legend of Vox Machina. I hope you're enjoying it too. I'm excited for the new show coming up on Friday. All that's my opinion. What do you think? Do you see what I'm saying? That it would have been very irresponsible to put a Goliath barbarian in an actual mercenary group, and not the pretend part is the mercenary part. We're very much a good aligned Dungeons & Dragons 5e adventuring group. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider like, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.